Welcome back to Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. I'm Magnum, and I'm here to help you seize the gap and be more efficient as we enter the final week of the 2025 NFL regular season. This is week 18. We have two games on Saturday that I'm going to be breaking down. Going to look to help you out, whether you're playing over on Draftkings or putting a couple of bucks down on the game. Congratulations to you if you won your fantasy football championship. But even if you didn't, maybe even more so if you did not, it's a perfect time to get into DraftKings. Maybe throw a couple of bucks down on the game, have a little bit of fun in some other way. We hope you have fun on this episode of Seize the Gap. Thank you very much for checking out the show. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Seize the Gap FF and on the web at seizethegapff.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please remember to touch the thumb, and please be aware that we are not affiliated with DraftKings or the DraftKings Sportsbook, but we are getting our odds and wagers from there. Everything is accurate as of December 31st, 2025. There is only one day left. Before we start putting any money down, we want to know what we're working with, so we're going to kick things off with the tail of the tape. The first game on Saturday kicks off at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check it out on ESPN or ABC. The 8-8 Carolina Panthers are traveling to Tampa Bay to face the 7-9 Bucks. Currently, the Bucks are favored by 2.5 points at home, minus 142 on the money line, while the Panthers are 2.5-point road dogs, plus 120 on the money line. Game total is 43.5 points. No real weather concerns here. Temperatures in the low 70s, winds around 10 miles an hour, 30% chance of a couple of pop-up showers, but not likely that the weather will have an impact on this one. For the Panthers, tight end Jatavian Sanders is out for the season with a broken ankle. For the Bucks, left tackle Tristan Wirfs is questionable. Hope he gets in there. Will be a big absence if he is not. The second game kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, you can watch it on ESPN or ABC. The 13-3 Seahawks are traveling to San Francisco to face the 12-4 49ers in a game that's basically for all the marbles in the NFC. The Seahawks are 1.5-point road favorites, minus 120 on the money line, while the San Francisco 49ers are 1.5-point home underdogs, even Steven plus 100 on the money line. Game total in this one is 48.5 points. Once again, no real weather concerns here. Temperatures in the mid-50s, light winds, 55% chance of rain, but doubtful it'll be a downpour or something like that. So could be a little slick, but nothing that really impacts scoring conditions. For the Seahawks, left tackle Charles Cross is questionable, and wide receiver Rashid Shaheed is in the concussion protocol. They're slightly hopeful that he can get in there, but most likely it's tough to clear the protocol on a short week, so I would consider Shaheed closer to doubtful than questionable. For the 49ers, tight end George Kittle is questionable, but he got into limited practice, so he's trending towards playing. Left tackle Trent Williams is more questionable with a hamstring injury. It seems like he might be closer to doubtful, while Kittle is closer to probable. Let's start with a couple of overall thoughts on the first matchup between the Panthers and Bucks. As far as the playoff scenario here, Carolina is win and in. If they win the game, they're the 4 seed. They are the NFC South champions. If Tampa Bay wins, they still need Atlanta to lose to the Saints to have a chance to win the division. So the Panthers still have a chance if they lose this one, but needless to say, both teams will be pretty highly motivated. Tough one to call. The Panthers have been all over the place in terms of performance this season. The Bucks started out the season pretty good on both sides of the ball, despite some injuries. They have been trending the wrong way on both sides, really. The defense especially has been absolutely terrible over the last month, 6 weeks or so. Baker has been very inconsistent. You see him trying to make plays at the end of the game. They've managed to kind of keep in there for the most part, but they haven't really been able to convert any victories. I mean, they've lost 7 of their last 8 games. The only team they beat was the lowly Arizona Cardinals, and that was in Tampa by a field goal. At the beginning, they were losing, the Patriots, the Bills, the Rams, those kind of teams. Okay, we can buy that. But you can't be losing, the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Dolphins last week. That was the really egregious one, losing to Quinn Ewers there. So you have to be concerned here that the ship is just going down for the Bucks, a pirate metaphor intended. But the Panthers are another tough box to crack. And for every time they will go ahead and just, handle the Packers, they'll lose to a team they shouldn't lose to. Again, one of these other NFC South teams, shout out the Falcons and the Saints just beating up on their divisional foes. They've certainly done a good job with it. Carolina, if you believe in this sort of thing, they've been going like win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. They've just been repeating the every other, and it is their turn to have a win. This game is kind of a close one. It's really tough to pick a side to, so it almost might be a spot where you're better off to just kind of letting the gods pick it out, at least when it comes down to absolutely picking a winner. I mean, if you have a lean, I think it's a good spot to go with it to show some conviction here. I think at the end of the day, whatever team can run the ball more successfully and has the quarterback that just doesn't make the big mistakes will win. You could probably say that for most NFL games, but I think in this one, it is more apparent. And this is a spot where both of these teams have been kind of letting their opponents score a bunch of points here. So I think the possibility of a sneaky shootout is on the board. I don't really know kind of, how hot of a take, how much hot fire I can spit for this one. Let's see here. What's kind of a bold take, a hot prediction here? How about we go with the rookie Tet McMillan here? Trending towards being the rookie of the year on offense. He is 71 yards short of 1,000. So let's say that the Panthers just really, really try to work him the ball here. 6+ receptions, 100+ yards, 1+ touchdown. So you want to throw that in on a single game parlay. Your odds are approaching plus 1,000. So I think it's a good spot to get on the rookie Tet McMillan, not only because I think the Panthers are going to try to feed him because he's their best weapon in the passing game, but because that Bucs defense is just a wonderful, wonderful matchup for him. One of the best possible matchups you can have for a wide receiver right now. So absolutely loving Tet McMillan this week in all formats. If you're still playing fantasy on Draftkings with the wagering, love all of it. I think it's going to be a big week for the Rook. Last game of his rookie year. As far as a vulture man, a guy who's going to steal a touchdown here, no Jatavian Sanders. So my instinct was to kind of look down the board for whichever of the Panthers tight ends you got a better number on. It's actually Mitchell Evans, who's a little bit longer, but I'm going to go with Tommy Tremble here at plus 500. He is nominally the tight end too. He had a decent profile coming into the league. I liked him as a prospect. He never really happened. He was kind of jammed in between Ian Thomas and Jatavian Sanders in terms of the draft picks that the Panthers would spend at the tight end position. I think there's enough here. It's a pretty good matchup for him, plus 500. Pretty fair number here. And of course, you're going to be wanting, McMillan, Rico Dowdle, maybe even Bryce Young, one of these guys, Chuba Hubbard even. No one is really going to be starting Tommy Tremble. So of course, he's going to go ahead and vulture one, find his way in at plus 500. In the nightcapper, we have the game that will decide the NFC West champion and most likely the number one seed in the NFC. It's just a matter of what Sam Darnold is going to show up here. He's had his moments this season, but realistically, for the past month or so, with maybe the exception of the second half against the Rams, the Seahawks have been winning in spite of Darnold, not because of him. It's right back to kind of praying that he doesn't make the huge mistake. He has still at least shown the ability to mix a couple of big plays in there with the mistakes, but this just doesn't seem like a game where he can afford to make those. The 49ers are, shout out Robert Saleh, they are playing to their maximum capacity given the injuries they've had on the defensive side of the ball. This is pretty much who they can be, and as you've noticed, most of their last couple of games have been shootouts. I do not know if that's really what Seattle wants to get into again. I know that they had success against the Rams, but remember, I think they had at least 200 scrimmage yards combined from the running backs, maybe 3 touchdowns from them. And if they can get the rushing attack going that way, sure, maybe I'll buy into the Seahawks rushing offense a little bit. I think they have to do everything they can to insulate Darnold. On the other side of the ball, I'm pretty sure Purdy will probably turn it over once. That's just kind of what he does, but he has done nothing but make plays. It sounds like they're going to have Kittle back with Parasol, so this is pretty much close to full strength, with the exception of maybe missing Trent Williams at left tackle, which would be a humongous loss. They were able to weather it last week against a Bears front that halfway decent pass rush here. Nothing like what they're going to face against the Seahawks here. So it's going to be a real test. The name of their backup left tackle is escaping me right now, but it's going to be a big, big performance for him. He is going to have to stand up and try to keep Purdy healthy. Purdy does have some legs. He's been more apt to run it lately. I think he's averaging around 28 yards rushing over his last 3 or something like that. Again, it's all probably going to come down to which unit does better, the 49ers offense or the Seahawks defense. If one of those two units dominates, I think that's the team that's going to win. Really, the other two units of the 49ers defense is going to be trying to ball hawk, play bend, but don't break. And the Seahawks offense is just going to try to take advantage of any short fields and not turn the ball over. So it's kind of a really interesting dichotomy you've got going in terms of the dominant units on both of these teams. I mean, Darnold has been more active lately, but he's basically doing less with more attempts, but fewer yards, barely more completions, fewer touchdowns, more interceptions. He's throwing the ball more, and basically all the bad numbers are going up and all the good numbers are going down. So it's just not a spot where I feel very comfortable backing the Seahawks offense, despite the fact that they put some numbers on the board lately, and the 49ers defense really isn't trending in the right direction. Something's kind of got to give here. It's just a matter of what is it going to be? Can Christian McCaffrey keep it going on the ground? He does have the ability to contribute so much in the passing game that it's not as big of a deal if that 49ers rushing attack gets shut down. I think it's even more crucial for the Seahawks that they get it going, be it Walker or Charbonnet or both of them. The combination has not worked very well this season. It's usually when one of them kind of gets the hot hand and gets a little more work, they manage to get some rhythm, get some momentum, and really put some big runs out there. Both are kind of guys who don't get a lot consistently. They're not really chunk runners. They're guys who kind of just, shorty, 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 boom, bust a long run. They're not really gashing you for 6 yards here, 8 yards here, 7 yards there, 10 yards there. It's 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 32. And that's kind of the style for both, even though stylistically, you wouldn't think they were that similar of running backs. The results kind of wind up being the same. And I think the presence of George Kittle is absolutely huge here. That gives the 49ers a couple of different options to step up on offense past McCaffrey. When you look at the Seahawks, who is it? You have the running backs, obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba. He has been fantastic, one of the absolute best receivers in the league, probably first team All-Pro. But my guess is the 49ers are going to throw everything at him. Maybe they'll give him the old Steve Smith, the actual literal triple coverage. Somebody else has to step up. I don't know if Cooper Kupp can do it. Rashid Shaheed could be out here. That leaves basically A.J. Barnard, Jake Bobo. You're getting pretty thin on the Seahawks side of the ball. So I think it might have to be the running backs that step up. Otherwise, I don't know what they're going to do unless Sam Darnold is really going to have himself a career rushing game, something of that nature. And I mean, that would be some hot fire, right? Saying Sam Darnold will rush for 50 plus yards or something like that. Almost wish I was going to do that, but I'm not going to be quite bold with that take, that hot of a prediction. Instead, I'm going to say that some way, somehow, maybe it's through 20 targets, but JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is going to have himself a game. Let's call it 175 or more receiving yards. I think it's just out of pure necessity here, especially if the 49ers get up. I don't know that Darnold is going to have anyone else out there that he can trust. So even if there is that triple coverage, I think Darnold is probably going to go ahead and test it and find out just what a JSN can do. So get ready for a couple of highlight receptions there. And we need a vulture man here to close out the Saturday night game. Who is going to steal the touchdown? Let's do it 2 weeks in a row. Maybe we're not going to go with 50 rushing yards, but how about an anytime touchdown for Brock Purdy at plus 600? Called it last week. He did it going back to the well. Anybody can pick Juwan Jennings to score for like the 7th straight week or whatever it will be. Nah, dog, give me Brock Purdy plus 600 on the anytime. It's going to be some pretty nice money we're bringing back. Part of me is very sad that there's really no fantasy football to talk because that season is over. But you can always play on DraftKings. We are down with the king, and we're going to get into the showdown contest here. We're going to start with this Panthers at Bucks matchup and try to figure out who we are going to play in our captain spot. This is a very, very difficult one. I'll say right up front, the pricing is nice here, but I'm probably not going to play any real cash games, double ups, head to heads, or anything like that on this slate. I'm probably going to go ahead and just take my chances on mostly tournaments. I'll certainly play some single entries, some 3 max, some 20 max, but for the most part, I'm just going to be taking big swings here. If you are playing in a cash game, head to head, 50-50, double up, something like that, at captain, I think you go with Bucky Irving at 13,800. That's quite a bit of savings here. Generally been pretty involved overall, just hasn't been finding the end zone. Had 19 carries the last time these two teams faced off a couple of weeks ago. So had 6 targets last week, so that was a little bit of a concern that Rachaad White was stealing some of his thunder there. So if we can kind of put those two things together and find the end zone, I think we're in pretty good shape here with Bucky Irving. Gives you a decent floor and access to one of the better ceilings that you have on this slate. And the Carolina rushing defense has been eminently gettable lately. They've given up at least 147 rushing yards in 4 of their last 5 games. So I think this is a week where the Bucks can definitely lean on our boy Bucky, hoping for that very much. You can obviously play Irving as a tournament captain as well. I think the ownership is going to be spread out fairly decently here, so you don't have to worry too much about landing on the expensive chalk. I think my favorite large field tournament option here is going to be the rookie Tetaroa McMillian, only 12,600 in your captain spot. Tried to play through an illness last week, had his worst game of the season. works for me, except for where, I had to start him in my fantasy playoffs. Definitely driving down the price tag and the ownership. I like him a lot. I think you can play him naked without Bryce Young if you want. You can also play him in your flex, but we've seen him have one monster game. So I think 36 points back in week 7, week 11, something like that. 7-11 always open. But again, just needs a 71 yards to get to 1,000. Looking to kind of make his case to be the rookie of the year. Will not shock me at all to see him get, 5, 6+ receptions, 100+ yards, find the end zone, something like that. 12,600, that'll get her done in your captain spot. You do have a couple of other options I would consider. Baker Mayfield's 15,900. He's only exceeded 24 DraftKings points in one game this season, so the ceiling really hasn't been there. But if it's going to happen, this is pretty much it. I don't know where else it will. He's kind of expensive here, so I'm going to kind of hesitate to play him that much in my flex, I think. So this might be a case if I'm going to go in on Baker, it will be a captain, just hoping he has the monster. Not the easiest guy to stack in terms of guessing which wide receiver combination you want to get in there. But other than Evans, they're all priced pretty competitively, so he's not incredibly expensive to stack. Mike Evans, like I said, a little bit more expensive, 15,300 in your captain spot. We know because he's Mike Evans that he has a big ceiling. I mean, there's a world where this is the last game of his career. I don't really want to think about it that way, but we have not really seen a monster game out of him this season. He's been kind of a nice high floor option more than a high ceiling option. So I'm probably throw maybe one lineup in with him, a captain, something like that, get a pinch of exposure. But for the most part, I think I'll just stick to stacking him with Irving or maybe even playing him naked if I'm doing kind of a Carolina runs the ball, gets up stack and just kind of hope that he is a nice run back option as the Bucks play from behind. And then the other option I would probably consider is Bryce Young, 14,400. Only 3 games all season with 20 or more DraftKings points, but he's got one of the best matchups. And once again, very, very cheap to stack. And I mean, honestly, you know what you're getting. You can stack him with McMillan if you want. You can run him back with Dowdle or Hubbard. You have Coker down there too. You have the cheap tight end. So it's very interesting. Again, I'm not a guy I'm going to have very much exposure to in my captain spot, but I think I am probably going to take some shots on him, maybe more so than Baker, even in my flagship, because again, I like kind of the way my lineups work out, and there's just other bucks I would probably prioritize. This isn't a crazy week when it comes to paying up for your captain, but it never hurts to find some value. So let's play a round of the price is nice. Cheapest guy I think I'm going to get in there, barring a pure punt play, is Tez Johnson, 2K flat. Pretty much just a guy you can stack up with Baker in your tournament lineups. Probably not going to get more than 2 targets, barring injury to one of the other Bucks wide receivers. So you're pretty much just praying for a long touchdown, but that's his profile. At only 2K opens up some salary. So again, decent kind of GPP stacking option. Sean Tucker is 2,600, nominally the third running back for the Bucks. The most big play potential between him and White assuredly is on the side of Tucker. Also kind of been the preferred option around the goal line. So again, at this price tag, 2,600, 1 touchdown, and you're already 2xing that price tag. Got some big play potential, not going to get a ton of touches barring an injury. I wouldn't mind seeing him run ahead of White, but I don't anticipate that happening here. Cade Otton, 3,200. Basically the same thing as Tez Johnson, but he could get more like 4 or 5 targets instead of 2. Maybe scores a touchdown. Just really haven't seen much ceiling from Otten this season. It kind of hurts me because we love when it's getting hot in here, but probably not going to be on him too much again unless I'm trying to kind of go with a creeper stack for Baker, something like that. Chuba Hubbard is 4,400. I think he works nicely as a stacking option with Young if you think the Bucks are going to get up and then the Panthers play from behind, which generally puts Hubbard on the field more than Rico Dowdle. In that case, he could be, in line to get 5, 6 receptions, something like that. Could rack up some yardage. So I guess you could get there kind of naked if you want a run back in this area, but I think he works a little bit better as a stacking option with a Young. Rachaad White is kind of a more expensive version of that on the Buck side of the ball at 4,600. I definitely prefer Tucker here. At one point, Tucker was definitely the third guy, and White was kind of seeing a couple goal line looks in addition to his passing game work. Now he's just getting more or less the occasional breather carry and the occasional target. Just not enough to get it done here. So I'm generally going to go with Tucker unless I am more or less trying to be contrarian here, because if you're willing to spend up, Rachaad White's going to come in at a fair, less owned number than Tucker is going to get just because of the savings and the recent rolls. Another guy who's going to get a big boost in ownership this week is the Bucks wide receiver, Jalen McMillan. He is 5,600. I like him. I was able to scoop him in a couple of shallow dynasty leagues when people had to bring him off of IR. They didn't have roster space. Loving kind of the long-term prospects here, but right now it is a bit of a traffic jam. And at 5,600, projecting for fairly decent ownership, ownership, this is a spot where, again, probably good to go there in single entry. Not going to fade him completely in tournaments, but I'll probably try to get off of him, especially if I, kind of reaching to get there. If I wind up right in this price range, I will consider it, but definitely one of the guys you want to be careful with, as he will be one of the most owned players on the slate. And then you have the backup tight ends for the Panthers. Mitchell Evans is 1,400. Tommy Tremble is 2,400. I prefer Tremble, but if you need the $1,000, I don't mind dropping down. There is a world where you could double bang them with Bryce Young and Ted McMillan, and then that probably honestly saves you too much salary. I don't think there's enough to spend up for on the slate, so probably not going to play both of them very often. But I certainly think one of them is fine, is one of kind of the better value options on the slate. You have the two DSTs, Carolina's 3,600, Tampa Bay's 4K flat. I am fine with either if you're stacking them up with the running back. I can see both of these teams turning the ball over a couple of times. So not a priority, but kind of as a last man in, or again, you're kind of building out a scenario where one of these teams kind of dominates the game, runs the ball, gets a couple of turnovers, and that kind of build, I like them. But other than that, probably just not a position I'm going to be getting to very often here. And then we have to figure out who we are going to spend up for. We got some value. We got some captains. Who else is going in the flex here? Obviously, if they're not in your captain spot, you have Bucky Irving at 9,200 and Ted McMillan at 8,400. Both of those players are going to make it into the vast majority of my lineups, one way or the other. Baker Mayfield is 10,600. Like I said, I don't hate it, but I'm probably more inclined to play him in the captain spot and hope that he finally has that monster game. At least 250 passing yards, two passing touchdowns, 50 rushing yards, rushing touchdown, something like that. So if he's doing that, I think you want him a captain, not in the flex. I will certainly have a sprinkling here, but again, it's expensive to stack him with Evans. And then once you drop down, you have to kind of play the guessing game between Godwin and McMillan and Igbuka. So just kind of almost preferred, going the other way with it sometimes. I mean, Evans is 10,200. Again, been more of a high floor option, and the floor hasn't been good enough to, I think, to pay up for here. So if I'm going to have exposure to Evans, it's mostly going to be as a stacking option with Baker, or playing him at captain and just hoping we get that one final Mike Evans monster game. Of course, he could come back next year, but you never know with these things. Rico Dowdle is 8,800 in your flex. I like it. I'm certainly going to have some exposure to him. I think he's going to get less ownership because some people will be inclined to drop down to Chuba Hubbard here. It looks like he has been reclaiming more of his role recently, 11 targets over the last two games. So hopefully he can stay on the field a bit more consistently. Bucks are something like 27th in rushing yards allowed over the last 6 weeks. So it could be wheels up for him, especially if they can keep this close or get a lead. Jalen Coker is 6,400. A very nice kind of value stacking option you can play with Bryce Young. Not really the highest of ceilings, but he has looked to him in big spots in the game. There is some big play potential, some touchdown upside here. So I don't mind Coker at all at 6,400. And then I teased it. You have the decision between the Bucks wide receivers. Chris Godwin is 8,200 and Emeka Egbuka 7,600. Igbuka seems to have hit the rookie wall. So in a vacuum, this is Godwin. It's Godwin pretty easily. I would say if you want to be as contrarian as possible in a tournament, or if you have a very, very kind of chalky, high-owned stack outside of this last spot, or your Bucks wide receiver, maybe go with Igbuka then and hope that he kind of has the bounce back here. We've seen it, every time, every once in a while they break on through to the other side of the wall. It does happen, but right now, I think especially if you're not looking to take a lot of risk with this one, Godwin seems to be rounding into form at the right time. Nice matchup here, so be careful with it. But I think, in a vacuum, Godwin, but if you want to be real tricky, you can go with Igbuka, but don't be surprised if you don't get a lot. It looks like McMillan might have even jumped him in the pecking order a little bit. So again, purely a contrarian large field tournament play. And we need to finish up this game here. We need a little mini stack to get you going. So let's do a little pack and a stack and a back and a hack. Let's see what we got here. No surprise, going to go with Bucky Irving in your captain spot at 13,800 and Ted McMillan in the flex at 8,400. Why not get Rico Dowdle in there at 8,800? And then I want to get a little bit extra money here. So we're going to go with one of the Panthers tight ends. In this case, going to go with Mitchell Evans to save the extra grand. So he's 1,400. So you have these four guys, Bucky Irving, the captain, Ted McMillan, Rico Dowdle, Mitchell Evans in your flex. You're left with 8,800 per player for your remaining two. Again, very easy for you to knock Mitchell Evans out. go a different way with this one, but I like this idea here of kind of getting in on Bucky Irving, getting McMillan and Dowdle in there, and hoping more or less they get the majority of the production on offense, especially when it comes to the touchdowns, outside of maybe one to the Panthers tight ends there. And this would leave enough money here to more or less do whatever you want with the final two spots, even if you want to pay up a little bit more for one of the flex spots here. So a nice little mini stack to get you going, fits comfortably in the back of your rack. Let's do the same thing for the Saturday night game. We're going to start with the captain spot. And once again, I'm probably not going to play a lot of cash on this slate, but certainly more likely to than I am in the early game. If you are playing in those formats, you're playing a head-to-head, a double up, a cash game, 50-50, smaller single entry, smaller tournament, something like that. Don't overthink it. Once again, pay all the way up for Christian McCaffrey at 17,700. Jackson Smith and Jigba probably on paper has a better matchup. He does on paper have the better matchup. But again, he has been more about kind of consistency, just banging out those 22-point games, whereas McCaffrey has lately been a little bit more of a low floor, high ceiling guy, but absolutely rolling here. And if he gets shut down in the rushing game, he can get it done through the passing attack. So it kind of works whether the 49ers get up or they fall down. He is game script independent here. It doesn't really matter what happens. Christian McCaffrey is going to get his. So definitely the optimal option here if you are playing in a cash game or something like that. And you certainly can play McCaffrey in your captain spot in a large field tournament. You will want exposure to him there. But I think my favorite large field tournament option at captain here is Brock Purdy, 15,300. He has been on fire. He's 2K cheaper than McCaffrey and Jackson Smith and Jigba. You get exposure to McCaffrey through him. Last three games, he's had 27.2, 31.9, and 40.9 DK points, averaging 28 rushing yards per game over that stretch. So a lot to like from Brock Purdy here. And there is a world where you could play him and not play McCaffrey. That would be extremely contrarian. I know you're saving money by playing Purdy at captain, but if you play him and then McCaffrey in there in the flex, you're going to run out of money. God forbid you want to jam JSN in there, and then you're really going to be hurting. And speaking of Jackson Smith and Jigba, 17,400 in your captain spot. Again, remarkably consistent. He's had between 20 and 33 DK points in 12 of his 16 games this season. So he hasn't had quite the super ceiling. He did have a 40 burger against the Titans, but other than that, it's just been all about consistency, which is fine. But at the captain spot, we're generally looking for the highest ceiling possible. And again, while he does have the ceiling, I think it's similar to McCaffrey. So McCaffrey is more likely to reach it. So while I will have exposure, that's why I'm leaning towards Purdy and probably McCaffrey at captain over him. And who knows? Yeah, like I said, the 49ers might try to triple cover him. Maybe he can break on through anyways, but this is a spot where I'm definitely not going to go all in on him at captain. But again, you're going to want a lot of exposure, I think. And then I might be underselling George Kittle at 13,500 just a little bit because we are unsure if he will play. Sounds like he will play, and he's one of those guys when he plays, he's usually not that limited. There's always a chance he has to block a lot more if Trent Williams is out, so keep that in the back of your mind. But before he went out with injury, he was rolling 22 or more DK points in 4 of his last 6 games, including each of his last 2. He hasn't really shown that 30-plus point ceiling we want in the captain spot, but we've seen it before, 100-plus yards, multiple touchdowns. He does have that upside, and I do not think he's going to pick up much ownership in the captain spot. So I think Kittle is a fantastic large field tournament option. You're just going to have to be, a little bit tricky how you want to stack it up because it's going to be tough to play him, Purdy, and McCaffrey. So you're going to have to make some choices. I'm no Rod Roddy, but we certainly need some value plays to come on down for this edition of The Price is Nice. We have some very expensive captains and not a lot in terms of value. We might be going with a punt play this week. Sky Moore, the 49ers receiver returner, is only 1K flat. You can stack him with Purdy. He sometimes sees a target or maybe a carry, gets a red zone look. Dynamic returner, though. I don't know if he's gotten a touchdown this year, but I think he has at least 2 where he's been tackled inside the 5-yard line. So could consider him stacking him up with the 49ers DST. You could double stack him with Purdy, or again, you could play him at $1,000. If he gets you a 0, it won't kill you, especially on this slate where there's so many guys you want to play up for. I'm usually not the first one in line to advocate for a pure punt play, but this isn't a pure punt. Pure punt would be $200 on a guy who's not even active. I'm not going that far, but he at least gives you a chance, a 1 in 100 chance here of finding the end zone, something like that. But it opens up a ton of salary, and there's not much value here. Demarcus Robinson is 3,200. Tough to get excited about him if Kittle is back. Maybe he gets 3, 4 targets. Jennings, Kittle, those are the guys I look to in the end zone. Parasol's the big play guy, so you're pretty much just picking up the scraps here. 3,200, I guess, is a kind of a secondary stacking option with Purdy in a tournament. Go for it, but that's probably as far as I'm going. Jake Tonjes, the backup tight end, is now priced up to 4K. If Kittle is out, you can pretty much lock button play him in all formats. If Kittle is playing, you really don't have to go there. Other tight end in this game is AJ Barner, other starting tight end, at least $4,400 in your flex. I don't hate it. He's had a couple of big games. He's been a little bit more involved. I don't know that I'm just necessarily going to jam him in there, but if you are playing Sam Darnold, I think he's very attractive here because you're going to be looking for that secondary stacking option to put with JSN and Darnold. And I think Barner is that guy. Just be aware that's going to be a very popular trio for those playing Sam Darnold. And then you have the two DSTs who I certainly have some interest in here. The Seahawks DST is 3,600. The 49ers DST is 3,800. Yeah, I had to double check that too. The 49ers defense is more expensive than the vaunted Seahawks defense, but that's because the proclivity of Sam Darnold to kind of Darnold it up at times. So I'm going to have multiple lineups with the defenses. I don't know if I'm going to do a full double stack, just, kickers, a full on ugly game stack here, but I am certainly going to pick and choose spots where I make lineups with the idea that one of the teams is going to run away with it. Their defense is going to turn them over, stack them up with the running backs, that sort of thing, not go very heavy on the other side of the ball. So I think both are very good in this scenario, but it is crazy. But the 49ers DST might have the higher upside just because of the matchup. And then to make things even more difficult, you have two of the best kickers in the league this season. Also in this game, Eddie Pinheiro of the 49ers is 5K flat. Jason Myers of the Seahawks, 5,200. Again, it's really tough to pick one of these guys. Generally, both have been getting you 10 to 12 DK points over their last 5 or 6 games, unless the game turns into a shootout. And that could happen here. Could also be a low-scoring affair where some of these teams kind of, burn out in the end zone. Both of these coaching staffs have shown a willingness to go ahead and not be as aggressive and just take the 3 points. So there's worlds where I could get both kickers in, but it's not going to be something I do often. It'll probably have to be intentional, but I do not mind either of these guys as kind of the last guy in your lineup. You could play both probably again if you're going with stacking up one defense and the running backs on that team. You could throw the kicker in there too, run it back on the other side with the opposing kicker. Something like that could work out if we get, again, one of those kind of either ugly games or a kind of a one-sided affair. So we got some captains, very expensive, some value, not much of it, if I'm honest with you, but we got to fill out the rest of the flex. If you don't have them at captain, Christian McCaffrey's 11,800 in your flex, Jackson Smith-Njigba is 11,600, and Brock Purdy is 10,200. Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of math to realize if you try to play those three guys, you are going to have to make some very, very, very tough choices elsewhere. And by tough choices, you're pretty much going to have to close your eyes and pray because there's not really enough of the quality value plays right now to make all of that happen. But I certainly want at least two of those three guys in all of my lineups, and I will be trying to jam all three in certain spots. No diggity, no doubt. Sam Darnold, 9,800 in your flex. I think he is best suited in the flex. You could probably do it with JSN and captain or not. It's not as bad if you double stack him because Barner isn't that expensive, but paying up for JSN with Darnold still at 9,800 is a touch higher than I would like to go. If he was down in that Kirk Cousins 8,800 range, I would like it a lot more. But again, pretty solid, matchup against the 49ers defense here. Does have 2 games on the season with 30 or more DK points, so at least he's shown somewhat of a ceiling. George Kittle is 9K flat here. I absolutely love him. It's just a matter of how all the lineups come together. But assuming he is out there, I am going to be definitely over the field, maybe even twice the field, depending on how his ownership winds up looking. but assuming Kittle is out there, even though 9K isn't the absolute greatest tag, again, I'd love about 8,200, something like that. I'm going to have a ton of exposure. Rashid Shaheed is 6,400. He is in the concussion protocol. Not a ton of interest, but he is very dynamic in the return game, and he's been the big play guy for Seattle. So if you were going to do kind of a weird Seattle lineup where you had Darnold and the Seahawks defense, you could always double stack them with Shaheed here and hoping maybe he double dips, something like that. But I'm not sure he's going to be out there in the concussion protocol, but the Seahawks have so few options. I thought I pretty much had to mention him. And then you have the other 49ers wide receivers. Jauan Jennings is 8,600. Ricky Parasol's 8K flat. Jauan Jennings has been remarkably consistent. So if you're playing in a cash game, he's probably your guy. He could enjoy your 20 to 40 yards and your touchdown. That's pretty much what he is doing. Ricky Parasol certainly looked dynamic, more big play potential. I think he's, right there in terms of the end zone potential. I know Jennings has been getting it done, but regression will happen, maybe negative for him and positive for Parasol. So Parasol would be my preferred option at 8K flat in most formats. But again, if you were playing in a cash game, don't mind going with the floor of Jauan Jennings. And then trying to choose between the Seahawks running backs is just a futile argument to have with yourself. Kenneth Walker is 7,400. Zach Charbonnet is 7,200. Charbonnet's coming off the bigger game. He's cheaper. He's projecting for more ownership, so I like Walker better. That's almost what this comes down to. Which one is going to get the most ownership? Go with the other guy. I think it's a spot to be contrarian. There are worlds, if you want to play that Seattle defense, where you could double bang these guys and hope for another monster, 175 plus combined rushing yards, 2-3 touchdowns, something like that. At this price tag, that could work. I mean, you could get real funky, throw the Seahawks DST at captain, and that's something I've really considered doing on this slate. Probably works better with JSN there, but again, given how expensive things are, it's at least somewhat interesting. I wish, again, these guys were priced somewhere in the 6K range, but 7,400, 7,200 really isn't that bad, all things considered, given the matchup. Finally, once again, closing it out here, packing the stack in the back of the act, little mini stack to get you going here. No real surprise. Christian McCaffrey in your captain spot, 17,700. Jackson Smith-Njigba in your flex at 11,600. Why not? Let's throw in the kicker. Jason Myers going to make it interesting here, 5,200. And then Ricky Parasol at 8K flat. Now, that does not leave you a lot to work with. McCaffrey a captain, JSN, Myers, Parasol in your flex leaves you 3,750 per player. It is doable, especially if you want to get down into that kind of punt play range, but it's this kind of slate. This was a very deliberate stack to give you the idea here of how tough it is going to be to jam all of the high price players in your lineup. This is without having Purdy in there. So just be aware here. You're going to want to play McCaffrey and JSN. I get it. I'm going to do so myself in quite a few slates, but you're going to have to be creative otherwise to fill out the rest of your lineup, or you might have to forego one of them. Wound up working with Puka on Monday Night Football. Maybe the refs helped out a little bit for that. But again, once you get guys that are priced up this far, they have to have phenomenal performances to pay off this price tag. So don't be overly afraid of leaving one of them out there if you need to, other than, again, if you're willing to really, really dumpster dive, get a little punty with it, it might work if they both have monsters. But if they don't, you might be better off trying to guess which one has the monster and which one lets us down. It's not a Saturday in the park or the 4th of July. It is Bet It, Bank It, Blow It time. Going to place a couple of wagers on these Saturday games. Please remember, we're not affiliated with the Draftkings Sportsbook, but that's where we're getting our odds and wagers from. Everything is accurate as of December 31st, 2025. Here on Bet It, Bank It, Blow It, our preferred currency is the Cricket coin. In Cricket, we trust for some reason, so all of our wagers will be in the form of Cricket coins. Like to open things up with the golden grab bag. These are just our favorite miscellaneous wagers that don't fit neatly into anything else we are doing. Jamie G is not with me this week. He is doing a holiday New Year's Eve Madison Square Garden thing, so I'm sure he will be back to talk about it very, very soon. So I do not have his picks this week, but I do have our results from last week. Last week on Saturday, I had the only offering for the grab bag. I lost 100 Cricket coins, put a wager on Keenan Allen to have 4+ receptions. Did have 2 drops, but only 3 targets, so he was not getting there. That was not great. Overall for the season on Saturdays through 17 weeks, Jamie G is up about 151 coins. I'm down about 112, putting us up about 40 coins overall. And overall, across all slates through 17 weeks in the grab bag, Jamie G is up about 1,165 coins. I am down about 632, putting us up about 533 overall. I have one offering for each game this week, so two total offerings for the golden grab bag. First up in the early game, I'm just going to go with a little bit of the sneaky shootout narrative here. I'm going to put 100 cricket coins on a game prop here. I'm going to say that Carolina and Tampa Bay both score 20 or more points. So 100 coins on Carolina and Tampa Bay to each score 20 plus. That is plus 141. So a wager on 100 cricket coins returns 241 coins. Again, just looking for a little bit of a sneaky shootout here. Total in the mid to high 40s. A close game comes down to a field goal at the end. In the night game, I'm just going to go with a little two-leg single game interception parlay. Leg number one, Sam Darnold over 0.5 interceptions, minus 129. Leg number two, Brock Purdy over 0.5 interceptions, minus 137. Parlay those together. Each quarterback's throwing at least one pick. Your odds are plus 208, so a wager of 100 coins to bring back 308. I think this one can get there, whether it's a low-scoring, ugly game or whether it's a high-paced shootout. Either way, I think both quarterbacks are thrown into the other team at least once. Before we go any further, I just want to slow things down and tease you for a minute. You know my tease. Jamie G is the captain of the tease, but in his absence, it is on me to drive the train. Last week on the Saturday slate, I had the only teaser offering. I did not get there, so I lost 100 coins. On the Saturday slate through 17 weeks for the teasers, I am down 200 coins. That's all we've had so far, so we're down 200 overall. And then across all slates for teasers, Jamie G's down about 804 coins. I'm down about 286. Our collaborative teasers are down 60 coins, putting us down about 1,150 coins overall. I'm generally a guy, if I'm going to do these, I go a little bit bigger with the 3-4 leggers here, but I only had two that I like, committed to keeping the bit going here, so I'm doing it. This is a two-leg, 6-point teaser at minus 135 as available on the Draftkings Sportsbook. Leg number one, going to tease the Carolina at Tampa Bay over to 37.5. And then leg number two, just going to go ahead, add the 6 points to the 49ers. So San Francisco plus 7.5 versus Seattle. Love that one. Getting over the 7 with the hook there. The hook is working for me. Shout out Captain Hook. So that's the teaser. Carolina, Tampa Bay over 37.5. San Francisco plus 7.5 versus Seattle. Once again, 100 coins at minus 135. So you hit that bad boy, you're bringing back about 174 coins. You know my tease. There's not much teasing when it comes to degeneracy. It's a little bit of a slope. There's about 3 degrees to it, and then you just fall off the face of the planet. This is 3 degrees of degeneracy. I'm going to show you just how quick it can all fall apart. Last week on the Saturday slate, I was down 50 coins in the degeneracy. I missed my flounder, Omarion Hampton, to have 80 plus to rushing plus receiving yards. He only had 60. I hit my Barney, Justin Herbert, to have 30 plus rushing yards, but missed my cricket, Luke Musgrave, anytime touchdown scorer. He didn't even get a target. So down 50 coins last week for the Saturday slate. And on the Saturday slate through 17 weeks, I am down about 104 coins. And across all slates in the degeneracy, I'm down about 1,427 coins. So still a good and proper degenerate, but I'm trying to dig my way out. It's up to you to enjoy it as I do. Once again, first up here, we have the Flounder intro to Degen 101 in honor of Flounder from Animal House. 100 cricket coins here, and we're just going to ride the train, baby. 100 coins on Juwan Jennings to be an anytime touchdown scorer, up to plus 155 here. 100 coins to bring back 255. I think that's 5 or 6 straight games. That's 5 straight games, 7 of his last 9, but I think he has 6 touchdowns over the last 5 games. So he's LL Cool J here. He is doing it. He is doing it. He is doing it well, and I expect it to continue. And like the Quad City DJs riding the train, a little bit of a mixed metaphor thing, but I think they both came out around 1996. Next up, we have the Barney degree number 2 of degeneracy in honor of Barney Gumble, our favorite degenerate down at Moe's Tavern. Shout out Carl and Lenny. Barney's got the 50 coins here. We're putting him on the rook. Tataroa McMillan to have 80 plus receiving yards. That is plus 205. We'll get him over 1,000 for the season. 50 coins to bring back 153. I think Carolina's going to do their best to feed him, and the matchup could hardly be better. Finally, the third degree of degeneracy, we have the cricket in honor of Rickety Cricket, who once was a good little priest and now he's living under a bridge with dogs. It's been a rough descent, but he's trying to dig his way out. He's got 25 coins, and he's going to put them on the Seahawks running backs. He's got 25 coins on Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet to combine for 150 plus rushing yards. So you add them together, Walker plus Charbonnet. If you get 150 plus rushing yards, we win. That is plus 510. So 25 coins to bring back about 153. San Francisco doesn't really give this up. It's only happened once to them this season, but the Seahawks have 125 or more rushing yards in 6 of their last 8 games, including a buck 63 and 171 over their last 2. So you're saying there's a chance, and you're always saying there's a chance. That's exactly how degeneracy works. But degeneracy certainly isn't for everybody. But we all like to party, right? Here on Bet It, Bank It, Blow It, we like to partay, particularly with the parlay. So we have the parlay partay. It's fun. It's a party. You can make a couple bucks, but to get in, you have to have a parlay. Last week, I had the only offering on Saturday. I did not get there, so I lost 100 cricket coins. On the Saturday slate through 17 weeks, I am up 450 coins on the parlays, and I've had the only action so far. So we are up 450 on the Saturday slate. For the parlay party across all slates, Jamie G is up 553 coins. I'm down 530. Our collaborative parlays are down 500, putting us down 477 coins. Once again, it falls to me to give the offering to the parlay this week. I'm going with a 4-leg SGPX parlay as available on the Draftkings Sportsbook. It's basically a little X that you enable, and it allows you to parlay single game parlays with basically anything else, including other single game parlays. So right up degenerate alley for all of us. Leg number one, going to go with Sam Darnold. Sam I am to have 2+ passing touchdowns. This is minus 124. Bet a 50-50 proposition. He's hit this in 8 of 16 games this season, but San Francisco's been giving it up. They've given up 2+ passing touchdowns, 7 of their last 9 games, including their last 3. So things are lining up for Darnold to do this, be it with the Seahawks getting up or possibly playing from behind. Leg number two, we're sticking with Christian McCaffrey in the air. Christian McCaffrey, 40+ receiving yards. This is minus 113. This has been almost a lock. He's hit this in 13 of 16 games this season. Could see more work here in the passing game against a tough defense and maybe with Trent Williams out as well. Could that be a factor? So I love McCaffrey to keep doing what he's doing here. 40+ receiving yards at minus 113. Leg number three, going with the rook here. Tet McMillan, 60+ receiving yards, minus 113. Yeah, he needs a 71 to get to 1,000 here, but you're doing the parlay thing. We didn't want to be a little bit too aggressive. We got 4 of these legs here, so just going to go with 60 yards at the minus 113. It's a coin flip for him. He's hit this half the time, 8 of 16 games this season. But again, this Tampa Bay defense has been the bottom 4 against the pass and the rush, to be honest with you, over the last 6 games. It's just been a debacle, and I expect Carolina to target him heavily here as he goes for the 1,000 yards and Rookie of the Year award. And then finally, on the other side of the ball in that game, give me Chris Godwin here, 4+ receptions, minus 143. He's had at least 4 grabs and 5 targets in each of his last 4 games. Really seems to be working his way into full health, rounding back into form at just the right time here, back to being Baker Mayfield's safety blanket. So those are the 4 legs. Sam Darnold, 2+ passing touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 40+ receiving yards. Tet McMillan, 60+ receiving yards. And Chris Godwin, 4+ receptions. Parlay those together, your odds are plus 830. So a 100 coin wager returns 930 coins just in time to celebrate 2006. And as always, we have saved the best for last, a trip to visit the glorious Golden Goose, who provides the golden eggs, which we turn into pure gold for y'all. Last week in the Golden Goose, I went 1 for 2, booked a loss of about 63 coins. I hit on the Houston at Chargers under 50.5 on the alternate total, but missed in the Baltimore at Green Bay game. Said both teams would make a field goal from 33 plus. Only Baltimore did. In my defense, there was not a lot on the menu when I recorded. So had to go with that one. Thought I was going to get there, but did not. So last week on Saturday, we booked a loss of about 63 coins. Overall, on the Saturday slate through 17 weeks here, I am down about 123 coins. Jamie G is down about 74, putting us down about 197. And across all slates, I'm down about 470. Jamie G is down about 394, putting us down about 863. Thanks for nothing Christmas Day. I have one offering for the Goose from each game here. In the early game, I'm just going to go with our guy Bucky Irving here. Give me 250 cricket coins on Bucky Irving to have 90 plus combo yards. So that's 90 or more rushing plus receiving yards. This is plus 137. So 250 coins to bring back about 593. Like we was getting into last week, but it was the first time all season that he had failed to get 70 or more combo yards. So he's been right in the zone here in this matchup. I'm thinking he's easily going to hit 100 plus, but DMX taught us to stop being greedy. So just going with the 90 combo yards here. And then in the nightcapper here, in the second game, we're just going to keep it simple, stupid. Give me the San Francisco 49ers on the money line, baby. 250 cricket coins on the San Francisco money line, even Steven plus 100 against the Seahawks. 250 coins to bring back 500. The Seahawks, like I said, man, they've been winning because of that defense, the special teams, the running backs, basically everything other than Sam Darnold hasn't caught up to him yet. I'm saying it finally catches up to him here. And thank you for catching up with this episode of Seize the Gap. Really appreciate you checking out the show. Any questions, comments? Did we help you? Did we screw you over? Let us know in the comments. All that good stuff. You know the drill. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Merry New Year. Happy New Year. All of that good stuff. Good luck to you, your teams, your college football teams, all that, what have you. This has been Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. Find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Seize the Gap FF and on the web at seizethegapff.com. Simple and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe if you had fun. Please remember to touch that thumb. I'm Magnum Mills, reminding you to seize the gap and stop being so inefficient. I don't care if you're old, you need to seize the gap.